Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to be diving into the life and legacy of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar.
Ah,
And as you know, this is part 2 of our series on modern Indian history.
okay.
It's a crucial subject for any UPSC aspirant.
Yes.
We're custom tailoring this deep dive for those tackling the GS1 paper.
Oh, wow.
But anyone with an interest in modern India,
Mhm.
I think will find this fascinating.
Mm.
So last time we laid the groundwork for understanding this period.
Okay.
Today,
Right.
we're zeroing in on one of the most influential figures of the 20th century,
Yeah.
Dr. B.R. Ambedkar,
Interesting.
whose impact goes way beyond textbooks.
Yeah.
His vision is woven into the very fabric of modern India, particularly when it comes to social justice and equality.
All right.
So,
yeah.
I've got a stack of sources here. Biographies, historical analyses, Ambedkar's own writings.
Oh, wow.
It's clear this man's life was anything but ordinary.
Definitely.
Help us sift through it all and extract those golden nuggets of insight. I've got an expert with me today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Perfect.
Dr. Ambedkar's story is one that resonates across disciplines, law, sociology, politics, history.
Interesting.
It's a reminder that individuals can indeed spark monumental change.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Let's start with his early years.
Okay.
The sources paint a picture of a childhood deeply impacted by the teachings of Sant Kabir,
Mm-hmm.
a prominent figure in the Bhakti movement.
Oh, yeah.
How did this early influence shape Ambedkar's worldview? Yeah.
So Sant Kabir's message was all about challenging social hierarchies,
Right.
particularly the rigid caste system,
Mm-hmm.
his emphasis on equality,
Yeah.
and the rejection of ritualistic practices had a profound impact on Ambedkar's family,
Ah,
instilling in him a deep sense of social justice from a very young age.
interesting.
Imagine growing up with the idea that everyone is equal regardless of their birth,
Right.
and then experiencing the harsh realities of caste discrimination firsthand.
Yeah.
It's no surprise that this became the driving force behind his life's work.
That's interesting. So it wasn't just theoretical for him.
Yeah.
It was deeply personal.
Yeah.
And that makes his relentless pursuit of education even more striking.
Okay.
The sources detail his incredible determination to overcome social and economic barriers to achieve academic excellence.
Yeah.
What kind of impact did this educational journey have on him?
It's important to understand the context here.
Yeah.
For someone from Ambedkar's background, access to education was incredibly difficult.
Wow.
Yet he excelled academically,
Mm-hmm.
graduating from Bombay University, and then pursuing higher studies at Columbia University in New York
Okay.
and the London School of Economics.
That's incredible.
Think about it.
Yeah.
He was immersed in some of the most intellectually stimulating environments of his time,
Wow.
exposed to global perspectives on law, economics, and sociology.
Right.
This educational journey provided him with the tools to analyze and deconstruct the very systems that perpetuated inequality in his own country.
Yeah, it's almost like he was gathering the intellectual ammunition to fight a deeply entrenched system.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of fighting,
Yeah.
when I was going through these sources,
Right?
I was really struck by the sheer breadth of Ambedkar's engagement with social reform.
Okay.
It wasn't just one approach.
Right.
It was a multi-pronged attack.
Interesting.
Can you give us a sense of the scope of his activism
Sure.
and maybe pick out one specific initiative that really highlights his approach?
It's true. Ambedkar wasn't content with just talking about change. He
Mm.
was a man of action.
Right.
He founded organizations,
Mm.
launched publications,
Int-
led protests,
Ah,
engaged in legal battles, and constantly pushed for legislative reforms.
yeah,
It's a really impressive tapestry of activism.
it is.
Take, for example,
Okay.
the Mahad Satyagraha of 1927.
Ah,
This wasn't just about access to water.
Yeah.
It was about challenging the very notion of untouchability and asserting the basic dignity of Dalits.
interesting.
Ambedkar led a large group of people to a public tank in Mahad, Maharashtra,
Right?
which was prohibited to Dalits.
Wow.
This act of civil disobedience,
Right.
directly confronting a deeply discriminatory practice,
Mhm.
captured national attention
Yeah.
and really solidified Ambedkar's position as a leader willing to challenge the status quo head-on.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
It really brings to life how he combined intellectual prowess with on-the-ground action.
Right.
It wasn't just theory for him.
Yeah.
It was about making tangible changes in people's lives.
Yeah.
Now,
Right.
this activism wasn't happening in a vacuum. India was also in the midst of its struggle for independence,
Right.
with a lot of different factions and ideologies at play.
Okay.
How did Ambedkar navigate this complex political landscape,
So
especially when it came to advocating for the rights of the depressed classes?
it's a crucial point.
Yeah.
Ambedkar recognized that the fight for independence had to go hand in hand with the fight for social justice.
Okay.
He was acutely aware that any future for India had to address the deep inequalities that plague society. His participation in the roundtable conferences in London in the early 1930s
Right.
is a testament to this.
Interesting.
He was on the world stage,
Wow.
demanding that the rights of the depressed classes
Yeah.
be recognized and enshrined in any future constitution for independent India.
Okay. And these weren't just polite requests, right?
Oh.
He was known for his sharp critiques, right, and uncompromising stance when it came to safeguarding the rights of the marginalized.
Yeah.
The sources mention his demand for separate electorates
Okay.
for the depressed classes, which caused quite a stir.
I see.
Can you unpack that for us?
Sure.
Why was this demand so controversial?
Imagine a system where certain groups, based on their social standing, have their own dedicated constituencies and elect their own representatives.
That's essentially what separate electorates meant.
Yeah.
Ambedkar argued that this was the only way to ensure true political representation
Right.
for the depressed classes,
Right.
who were otherwise likely to be sidelined by the dominant caste groups within a general electorate.
That makes sense.
Of course.
Yeah.
This demand was highly contentious.
Right.
Critics,
Yeah.
including Mahatma Gandhi,
Okay.
argued that separate electorates would further divide society along caste lines and impede the goal of national unity. The debates surrounding this issue were heated,
Yeah.
reflecting the deep complexities of navigating social reform within a larger political movement.
It sounds like a real tightrope walk.
Yes.
Balancing the immediate need to protect the interests of the depressed classes with the larger vision of a unified India.
Exactly.
This eventually led to the Pune Pact of 1932, right?
Yeah.
An agreement between Ambedkar and Gandhi
Right.
that, while a compromise, had a significant impact on the political landscape.
Can you tell us more about this pact and its long-term consequences?
The Pune Pact was a pivotal moment in India's political history.
Okay.
Faced with Gandhi's staunch opposition to separate electorates, and under immense pressure from the British government, Ambedkar agreed to abandon the demand.
Interesting.
However,
Yeah.
he secured a crucial concession,
Okay.
reserved seats for the depressed classes within the general electorate.
Yeah.
This meant that a certain number of seats in legislatures
Right.
would be specifically reserved for Dalit candidates,
Okay.
ensuring their political representation.
So while he didn't get separate electorates,
Right.
he managed to secure a guaranteed voice for the depressed classes within the political system.
Exactly.
That's quite a strategic move.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how Ambedkar was able to adapt his approach, always keeping his eye on the ultimate goal.
It speaks volumes about his political acumen.
Right.
He recognized the need to be pragmatic,
Mm-hmm.
to make compromises when necessary, without losing sight of the core objective,
Right.
securing political power for the marginalized. This pact,
Right.
though controversial,
Yeah.
laid the groundwork for the later inclusion of affirmative action policies in independent India, a legacy that continues to shape the country's social and political landscape.
And speaking of shaping the landscape, this brings us to the heart of Ambedkar's legacy.
Okay.
His pivotal role in drafting the Constitution of Independent India.
Right.
He was, after all,
Yeah.
the chairman of the drafting committee,
Oh.
essentially the chief architect of the very document that defines modern India.
That's a pretty weighty responsibility.
Entity, weighty responsibility.
Imagine being entrusted with that task.
Yeah.
To craft a framework for a newly independent nation,
Right.
grappling with immense diversity, deep social divisions,
Yeah.
and the legacy of colonial rule.
Okay.
It was a daunting challenge, to say the least.
It was.
Yeah.
So let's dive into this next phase of Ambedkar's journey. What were the key principles that guided him? as he took on this monumental task of shaping the Constitution? And what were some of the biggest challenges he faced?
Well, first and foremost, Ambedkar was a staunch advocate for equality and social justice.
Right.
These weren't just abstract ideals for him.
Yeah.
They were principles he sought to enshrine in the very fabric of the nation. He understood that a constitution is not just a legal document.
Yeah.
It's a blueprint for a just and equitable society.
It's almost like he was using the Constitution as a tool for social engineering.
Right.
Aiming to create a system that would dismantle the deeply ingrained hierarchies of Indian society.
Yeah.
That's quite a bold vision.
Indeed.
Okay.
It was a vision born out of his own lived experiences,
Right.
his deep understanding of history,
Right.
and his intellectual engagement with constitutional law.
Right.
But as you can imagine, this wasn't a smooth sailing process. There were intense debates, conflicting viewpoints, and the immense pressure of crafting a document that would be acceptable to a diverse and often divided nation.
I can only imagine the kind of opposition he faced, especially from those who were threatened by the prospect of a more egalitarian society.
Right.
What were some of the specific challenges that stood out in his path?
Oh, there were many.
Okay.
One of the biggest challenges was reconciling the aspirations for a strong central government necessary for a newly independent nation with the need to safeguard individual liberties and protect minority rights. This tension between unity and diversity, between state power and individual freedom, was a constant theme throughout the drafting process.
It sounds like he was walking a tightrope.
It was.
Trying to find that delicate balance between competing interests. I'm curious to know how he navigated these tensions, particularly when it came to protecting the rights of marginalized communities. Did he face pushback on his efforts to incorporate provisions for social justice?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Remember, this was a time when traditional power structures were being challenged, and not everyone was on board with the idea of radical social change. Ambedkar's insistence on including provisions for affirmative action, like reservations in education and government jobs for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, was met with considerable resistance.
I can imagine. Those who benefited from the existing social hierarchy wouldn't have given up their privileges without a fight.
Right.
How did Ambedkar manage to push through these reforms in the face of such opposition?
So,
did he have any allies in this battle for equality?
Well, it's important to note that Ambedkar wasn't working in isolation. There were others within the Constituent Assembly who shared his vision for a just and equitable India. And while there were certainly disagreements and debates, there was also a recognition that addressing historical injustices was crucial for building a truly inclusive nation.
So it was a coalition of forces. A mix of idealism and pragmatism.
Exactly.
That allowed him to achieve these landmark changes. It's fascinating to see how his unwavering commitment to social justice was tempered by a strategic understanding of the political landscape.
Exactly. He was a master of combining principled conviction with tactical maneuvering. He understood that change rarely happens overnight. That it requires both bold pronouncements and strategic compromises.
This is getting really interesting. I can't wait to unpack some of the specific provisions that Ambedkar championed in the Constitution, the ones that continue to have a profound impact on India today.
Yeah, me too.
But before we dive into that, let's take a quick break. We'll be back in a jiffy to explore the nuts and bolts of Ambedkar's constitutional legacy.
Looking forward to it. There's so much to delve into, especially for our listeners preparing for the UPSC exams. These details are crucial for understanding not just history, but also the very foundations of contemporary India.
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
All right, we're back and ready to unpack some of the specifics of Ambedkar's constitutional legacy. For those of you listening who are UPSC aspirants, this is where things get really relevant for your GS1 preparation.
Yeah, understanding the nuances of the Indian Constitution is key. And there's no better way to do that than by examining the vision of the man who played such a pivotal role in shaping it.
Exactly. So let's talk about some of the key features that Ambedkar championed. In our prep for this deep dive, I noticed how much emphasis is placed on the fundamental rights enshrined in the Constitution. What makes these rights so crucial?
Think of fundamental rights as the bedrock of
Okay.
a free and democratic society.
Yeah.
These are the inalienable rights that protect individuals
Right.
from arbitrary state action and ensure basic freedoms. Ambedkar, having witnessed firsthand the injustices of a society
Right.
steeped in hierarchy and discrimination,
Yeah.
saw these rights as absolutely essential.
He fought hard for their inclusion,
He did.
arguing that without these guarantees,
Mhm.
the Constitution would be nothing more than a paper tiger.
Yes.
His vision was to empower citizens, to give them the legal tools to fight for their rights, to hold the state accountable.
It's powerful.
That's powerful. It wasn't just about lofty ideals.
Right.
It was about creating tangible mechanisms to protect those ideals.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any specific fundamental rights that really exemplify Ambedkar's commitment to social justice? The ones that even today stand as a testament to his vision?
Absolutely. Article 17, which abolishes untouchability,
Right.
is a prime example.
Yeah.
It's a direct attack on a practice that had been deeply ingrained in Indian society for centuries.
Wow.
Ambedkar understood that simply outlawing discrimination wasn't enough.
Right.
It had to be explicitly stated,
Yeah.
making it a punishable offense.
Interesting.
Then there's Article 15, which prohibits discrimination on grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth.
Wow. So much in there.
Again, this reflects Ambedkar's unwavering belief in equality. His vision for a society where everyone is treated with dignity and respect regardless of their background.
It's incredible to think that these rights,
Yeah,
which we often take for granted today,
right.
were hard-won victories the result of his relentless advocacy.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you realize how much we owe to his vision.
It does.
But equality isn't just about legal pronouncements, right?
No.
It also requires addressing the systemic disadvantages that certain groups face.
Mm-hmm.
This is where the concept of affirmative action comes in.
Right.
How did Ambedkar approach this sensitive issue?
This was a crucial point of contention. During the drafting of the Constitution, Ambedkar recognized that historical injustices needed to be addressed,
Yeah.
that merely providing legal equality wasn't enough to create a truly level playing field. He argued that affirmative action measures were necessary to compensate for centuries of oppression and to empower marginalized communities.
So he was looking beyond just legal equality, aiming for a more substantive kind of equality that addressed the real-world disadvantages faced by certain groups.
Right.
But these measures, especially reservations in education and government jobs, were and still are quite controversial.
They are.
How did he justify their inclusion in the face of opposition?
Ambedkar's argument was rooted in the idea of social justice.
Yeah.
He believed that those who had been historically disadvantaged
Right.
deserved special consideration to overcome the obstacles they faced.
Yeah.
He saw reservations as a temporary measure,
Okay.
a necessary intervention to level the playing field and create a more equitable society.
I see.
Of course.
Yeah.
There were and continue to be valid concerns about the potential for misuse and
Yeah.
the need for periodic review.
Yeah, that makes sense.
However, Ambedkar's vision was clear:
Wait, what was it?
to create a system that not only recognized equality on paper, but also actively worked towards achieving equality in practice.
It's a testament to his foresight that these debates are still relevant today.
They are.
We're still grappling with the complexities of affirmative action, trying to find that delicate balance between addressing historical injustice and ensuring fairness for all.
That's a tough one.
Now, beyond these specific provisions,
Yeah.
there's something else that really struck me about Ambedkar's approach to the Constitution.
Okay.
It wasn't just about listing rights and principles.
Right.
It was about creating mechanisms to ensure those rights could be enforced.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he built in safeguards
He did.
to protect the Constitution itself.
Right.
So he was thinking about the long game, anticipating potential challenges and creating tools to address them.
Yeah.
Could you give us an example of these safeguards that he incorporated into the Constitution? Something that really exemplifies his foresight and commitment to protecting the rights of citizens.
One of the most striking examples is Article 32, which guarantees the right to constitutional remedies. This provision empowers citizens to directly approach the Supreme Court if their fundamental rights are violated. It essentially creates a direct line between the people and the highest court of the land.
Interesting.
Bypassing the complexities of the political process.
That's ingenious.
Yeah.
It's like he created a safety valve, a way for citizens to hold the state accountable, ensuring that the Constitution wasn't just a document, but a living, breathing framework for protecting rights.
Exactly. And this provision has been used time and again to uphold the rights of individuals and communities, proving its enduring value. Ambedkar's understanding of the potential for abuse of power and his foresight in creating mechanisms to counter it is a testament to his legal brilliance.
It's inspiring to see how he translated his ideals into tangible mechanisms, ensuring that the Constitution wasn't just a lofty document, but a tool for real-world change.
And remember, this wasn't just theoretical for Ambedkar.
No, it wasn't.
He had lived through the realities of discrimination and oppression. He knew the importance of having legal recourse, of being able to fight for your rights within a system that was designed to protect those rights.
This is what makes his contribution so powerful.
It is.
It wasn't just about legal expertise.
It
was about a deep-seated commitment to justice, a determination to create a system that would truly uphold the principles of equality and fairness.
Absolutely.
And this brings us to another crucial aspect of Ambedkar's legacy, his political activism. Even after the Constitution was adopted, he continued to fight for the rights of the marginalized.
Yes. Ambedkar's political journey didn't end with the drafting of the Constitution.
No.
He understood that a document, however well crafted, couldn't by itself dismantle centuries of ingrained social hierarchies. He knew that change required constant vigilance, sustained political engagement, and a willingness to challenge the status quo.
So he wasn't content with just creating the framework he wanted, to be actively involved in the process of implementation, ensuring that the Constitution's ideals were translated into reality. What were some of the key political initiatives he undertook in the years following independence?
Well, he founded political parties like the Independent Labor Party and the Scheduled Castes Federation, aimed at mobilizing and empowering Dalits. He served as India's first law minister, using his position to push for progressive legislation and to further the cause of social justice.
It sounds like he was operating on multiple fronts.
Yeah, he was.
Legal, political, social. Always with the aim of creating a more inclusive and equitable society. His energy and commitment are truly remarkable.
It's important to remember that Ambedkar was not without his critics. His views were often controversial, his methods sometimes confrontational. He wasn't afraid to challenge the status quo, even when it meant going against the grain of popular opinion.
That's a crucial point.
Yeah.
He wasn't just seeking harmony. He was willing to stir things up, to push the boundaries of what was considered acceptable in order to achieve his goals.
Right.
His life and work serve as a reminder that true social change often requires courage, conviction, and a willingness to challenge deeply entrenched power structures.
Exactly. And his legacy continues to inspire activists and reformers around the world. He showed that individuals, even those from marginalized communities, can rise to positions of power and influence and use that power to fight for justice and equality.
This deep dive has been an incredible journey so far, exploring the life and legacy of a truly remarkable individual.
It has.
But we're not done yet. There's still much to uncover, particularly a fascinating aspect that often gets overlooked, Ambedkar's prediction of India's partition.
Now, that's a topic that deserves its own deep dive.
Yeah, it does.
It's a testament to his political acumen and his deep understanding of the complex dynamics that were shaping India in the lead up to independence.
We'll definitely be exploring that in detail, but before we do, let's take a moment to recap what we've covered so far.
We've traced Ambedkar's journey from his early years, marked by the influence of Sant Kabir and his struggle to overcome social barriers to pursue education, to his pivotal role in shaping the Constitution of independent India. We've examined his unwavering commitment to social justice, his strategic brilliance in navigating the political landscape, and his enduring legacy as a champion of equality.
And for those of you preparing for the UPSC exams, this deep dives into Ambedkar's life and work is more than just a history lesson.
Right.
It's a rich source of insights into the core principles that underpin the Indian Constitution, the challenges of social reform, and the complexities of navigating a diverse and often divided society.
Exactly. These are themes that continue to be relevant today, not just in India, but across the world. By understanding Ambedkar's struggles and triumphs, we can gain a deeper appreciation for the ongoing struggle for social justice and the importance of protecting the rights of all citizens.
So let's move on to that fascinating story of how Ambedkar, years before it happened, predicted India's partition.
I can't wait to unpack that. It's a story that reveals not just Ambedkar's foresight, but also his deep understanding of the historical forces that were at play in shaping the destiny of the subcontinent.
All right, we're back and ready to tackle a fascinating and often overlooked aspect of Ambedkar's legacy.
Yeah.
His prediction of India's partition.
This is where Ambedkar's deep understanding of social and political dynamics really shines through.
Yeah.
Years before the events of 1947, he saw the fault lines, the growing tensions that would ultimately lead to the division of the subcontinent.
It's almost like he had a crystal ball.
Yeah.
But knowing Ambedkar, it wasn't some mystical intuition. It was based on a sharp analysis of the situation.
Exactly.
Sources mentioned his 1941 book, Thoughts on Pakistan, as a key piece of evidence.
Okay.
What exactly did he lay out in this book?
So imagine you're living in the 1940s.
Amidst the fervor of the independence movement, there's this overwhelming desire for freedom, but also deep anxieties about the future of a nation marked by such diversity. Ambedkar, in his book, dissects these anxieties. He meticulously analyzes the growing Hindu-Muslim divide, the incompatible aspirations of the two communities, and the escalating tensions that were leading to communal violence.
So he was sounding the alarm.
He was.
Warning about the potential for a catastrophic split. Was he advocating for partition as the solution?
It's more nuanced than that. Ambedkar saw partition as a potential solution to safeguard the rights of minorities and prevent further bloodshed. He argued that in a unified India dominated by a Hindu majority, the Muslim minority would always be vulnerable to discrimination and marginalization.
So he was looking at it from the perspective of protecting the rights of the most vulnerable.
Exactly.
But as we know, partition was a deeply traumatic event.
It's leading to widespread violence and displacement. Does this mean Ambedkar's prediction was flawed?
It's crucial to understand that Ambedkar was not celebrating partition. He recognized the potential for immense suffering, the uprooting of millions of people, the potential for long-lasting conflict. He saw it as a bitter pill. A necessary evil to prevent even greater bloodshed.
So it was a pragmatic assessment, a recognition of the harsh realities of a deeply divided society.
Exactly.
But even with the best intentions, predictions can go awry.
It can.
The sheer scale of the violence that accompanied partition was unprecedented.
Absolutely. Ambedkar, like many others, underestimated the intensity of the communal hatred that had been simmering beneath the surface. The partition as it unfolded was far more chaotic and brutal than anyone could have anticipated.
It's a tragic reminder that even the most insightful predictions can't fully account for the complexities and unpredictable nature of human behavior. But Ambedkar's analysis remains a valuable lesson.
It highlights the importance of understanding historical context, of acknowledging the potential for conflict when deep-seated divisions are left unaddressed.
It also underscores the need for leaders to engage in dialogue.
It does.
To seek solutions that prioritize peace and justice, even when those solutions involve difficult choices. And this brings us back to Ambedkar's broader legacy. He wasn't just a legal scholar or a politician. He was a visionary who saw the fault lines in society. And dedicated his life to building a more just and equitable world.
His life and work serve as a reminder that the pursuit of social justice is an ongoing struggle, requiring constant vigilance, a willingness to challenge the status quo, and a deep understanding of the historical forces that shape our world.
And for those of you prepping for the UPSC, this isn't just about memorizing names and dates. It's about grasping the core ideas that drove Ambedkar, the principles that underpin the Indian Constitution, the challenges of social reform, and the complexities of navigating a diverse and often divided society.
Exactly. These themes are relevant not just for the GS1 paper, but for anyone seeking to understand the world around us, the challenges we face, and the possibilities for creating a more just and equitable future.
This deep dive has been an incredible journey exploring the life and legacy of a truly remarkable individual.
It has.
From his early influences to his monumental contributions to the Constitution, to his prescient prediction of India's partition.
Right.
Ambedkar's story is a testament to the power of ideas, the importance of fighting for what you believe in, and the enduring impact that one person can have on the course of history.
His life serves as a beacon of hope, reminding us that change is possible even in the face of seemingly insurmountable obstacles. By learning from his struggles and triumphs, we can draw inspiration for our own efforts to create a world where justice and equality prevail.
So as we conclude this deep dive, we encourage you to delve deeper into Ambedkar's writings, to engage in discussions about his ideas, and to reflect on how his legacy can inform our own efforts to build a more just and equitable world.
And for all you UPSC aspirants out there, best of luck with your exams.
Keep those minds sharp, those spirits ignited, and remember, the pursuit of knowledge is a journey, not a destination.
It is.
Until next time, keep exploring.